Alright guys, so today I have a really interesting video for you. I want to show you some really important information which you cannot find in any survival book, but if you notice, this will really save your life in a wilderness survival situation. And also, if you're watching survival shows like me, I love watching Naked and Afraid. Half of the people are making this thing wrong that I'm going to talk about today. And because of that, they are going to make it very hard for themselves in a survival situation. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the comfort zone of the fire. So if you're lying next to a fire, the comfort zone is actually only this big. So when I was on Naked and Afraid, on this side I was almost burned because the fire was so hot. And on the other side I was really cold, almost too cold. So the comfort zone around the fire is only this much. Of course it depends if it's colder, yeah? The colder it is, the narrower the comfort zone will get. Also the comfort zone of the fire depends on the clothing. Maybe you have a sleeping bag, so if you have a sleeping bag then the comfort zone around the fire gets bigger because you're insulated from the cold. So you can move a little bit farther away from the fire. So it has to do with the temperature, it has to do with the clothing that you have on your back, and it has to do if you have a wool blanket or sleeping bag. And now comes something really important, and I want to draw this down on the paper here. Okay, so now let's draw a fire quickly. So let's say the fire is in the middle here. This is the fire. And you don't want to make a circular fire, but you rather want to have a long fire, because with the long fire you can put in bigger logs, and those bigger logs will burn down more like slow, so you have like 45 minutes time until you have to insert the next log. If you're making a small fire with small twigs, you have to refeed the fire every 15 to 20 minutes, so that really sucks, and then you cannot sleep. So really make sure that you make a long fire, which has about the length of your body, and you want to feed in bigger logs if possible. So that's the fire here. Okay, and now comes the thing. Now I will draw the area around the fire which is too hot. Okay, in this area you cannot stay, otherwise you will get burned. Alright, so now let's draw the line of the green zone, the comfort zone. This is actually where you can stay and sleep. Okay, so you can see it's not really big. So this area, the distance here is maybe 30 centimeters, like my shoulders. So this is where you want to lie. And then around here, all of the other area, this is actually too cold. You cannot lie in the blue zone. You will wake up in the night and you cannot stay there. Okay? So this is the blue zone. Alright, so now let's take this figure here. And actually you want to lie exactly here at the green zone. Okay? You don't want to lie with the head to the fire, because then the feet are too cold. See? So if you lie like this, there's no way that you can get your feet warm or your hip. So only the head and maybe the chest will be warm, but not the hip and the feet. And this is a real problem, because if your feet are getting cold, you are risking a bladder infection, and that's what's happening a lot to women, I have to say. So it's rare with men, but women very often have this problem. So it's always better to lay sideways besides the fire, because now the fire can warm your entire body instead of just the head. And this is a really important information. So if there are two persons, you would place one person here and one person here. And if there's three persons, one has to lie here. Although this is not perfect, because sideways to the fire is always better. Now comes the thing. So if you have a second person, let's say this one is the second person, the second person cannot stay here. It's just too cold. It's not possible. I've tried it many times. It's just not possible. So the second person always has to stay here opposite to the fire. You want to bring the fire in between the two people. And next, I want to show you a couple of things. So a lot of people have survival books, which is great. Alright, so now I want to show you the shelter that you cannot build in this case. So now let's say you're in a survival situation and you don't have a sleeping bag and you don't have a wool blanket or excessive amounts of clothing. So let's say you just have maybe a t-shirt on and now you have to stay a night in the woods. So in this case, you cannot really build an A-frame shelter because the opening of the A-frame shelter has to always face to the fire, and then you would lie like this. So then you have the same problem again. The feet and the hip are cold and the head is almost burning. So the A-frame shelter is not a good survival shelter unless you have a sleeping bag. Then you can build an A-frame shelter. But if you don't have a sleeping bag or something similar, then you got to build a lean-to shelter. This is what you got to build. A simple lean-to shelter, maybe with a fire reflector, if you have the time. And then you can lay sideways to the fire. And this is the most important information that I can give you about the positioning and the type of shelter around a fire. And this is much better, but still it's very hard to survive in the woods without a sleeping bag. So you're going to be really tired because you're going to wake up every 45 minutes to refeed the fire, and it's going to be really hard anyway. So why do you want to make it harder for yourself by making a A-frame shelter and lying like this to the fire? It doesn't make any sense. It can happen that if you have a bigger group, let's say you have 7 people, then you have to fit the people around like this, but also then it's actually better to make 2 camps, 2 fireplaces, so everybody can lay around the fire like this. So this is the most important information, and if you get it wrong the first night, it will already break your spirit, and then it really sucks to continue on your survival challenge or journey, and then you're already tired and have a bad start for the next days. So it's really important that you are as efficient as possible and you don't make such beginner's mistake at the beginning of your survival challenge, because otherwise you will be drained with energy and this might even cost your life. So if you make a mistake, if you build the wrong shelter in the wrong conditions, then you're going to make it very much harder for yourself. Alright guys, so this is the comfort zone around the fire. Now when you think about it, it makes sense, right? But still a lot of people get this wrong, and you can see some beginners on Naked and Afraid, they are building the wrong type of shelter. Some people even start to build the platform first and then they realize, hey, this needs longer than we thought, and then the night falls in and they are left with a platform and they have no shelter. So if you only have like 3 hours left of daylight, you are not going to start building a platform. You want to build a lean-to shelter quickly, and then you want to gather firewood until you cannot see anymore because of the darkness. A survival situation is extremely stressful and you must work 100% until you cannot see anymore, until the night falls. And you want to get it right the first time. So if you're ever in a survival situation, build a lean-to shelter, maybe also a shelter for the fireplace, and then you want to lie sideways to the fire. This is the best method, and this is how we survived really cold days on Naked and Afraid. So the coldest temperature that we got in the desert was 7.5 degrees Celsius. How did we know the temperature? Well, we could see our own breaths, and you can Google the question, when do you see your own breath, at which temperature? So the answer is 7.5 degrees Celsius. So it was really cold, but we survived because we made a huge fire, we put in big logs, and this is how we survived naked in this cold environment. Alright, so this is it for today. I really want to thank you for watching, and if you want to get the link to this book, then just check out the description below. Stay tuned till next time.